Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and it's great to be back with another edition of the Poetry of Painting. Now on a monthly frequency, which is rather nice. It keeps it a bit fresh. And tonight we have a super guest back with us, Roz Ottery. So let me just bring Roz onto the screen. Hi, Roz. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Fiona. Nice to be here. Thanks for asking me.
It's great to have you back. I love your poetry, as you know, and yeah, it'd be lovely just catching up with you, hearing some of your work, and having a good old chat about poetry and painting. So,
Indeed,
welcome. So this evening, the main thrust of this show is, of course, poetry and painting, and for this show this month, you've written us a poem which I'm sure will be absolutely beautiful, as all your others have been, about a painting of mine called Crystal Waters. Now this is an oil painting on gold leaf on canvas, and it's, remember rightly, I think it's 30 by 60 centimeters. And just looking at it in the picture, no, I think it must be 30 by 50, sorry. Because that's not twice as long as it is high, so 30 by 50 centimeters, and as normal painted using knives rather than brushes, which has given it a lot of lovely rich texture and thick paint, which took quite a while to dry. So, but it was good, it was worth it, and just keep it on the side drying out of the way. I do like that texture in a painting. So let me just bring that onto the screen a moment as well. So this is the painting that you chose to write about, Roz. Would you like to tell us a little bit about why you chose this particular one over the others?
Yeah, I was very drawn to this, Fiona, as soon as I saw it, and I think it's a beautiful title, and I think it fits the picture perfectly.
It took a while to think up a title for this one.
The poem doesn't necessarily reflect the water part of this, but the immediately what it does is it draws you into the painting. You know, it's one of those sorts of things that you could stand in a gallery for a long time and contemplate and look at. And I was drawn to it in that way. So I did a lot of contemplating with this picture. It made me feel relaxed and happy just to stare at it and imagine, you know, the paths around the water and onto the mountains and etc., which of course immediately for me started a kernel of an idea.
Excellent. That's what to me, hearing that from you is amazingly. It's just wonderful, because that's what I aim for in my paintings. I love those wild places with, you know, very few people around, just the peace and tranquility of the natural world. And if that's what you got from it, that is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, it actually, what it did, it took me into our own inner world. It took me into the fact that we all strive for this type of peace in our, you can't get it in the modern world. It's almost impossible. But if we held, well, this is how I see it. If I held up to my inner eye the type of peace I want inside, it would be this painting.
Excellent.
So that's how the poem came about, because it's exactly about that, really.
Right. And would you like to read us your poem now?
I will indeed. I've written this by hand because my computer's playing up. So it's harder to read handwritten poetry simply because the light is not great for the pen. But I'll do my best, and I hope that you can understand it. If not, just call out.
Righty ho, will do. And by the way, everybody, welcome to the show, and please make comments and ask questions, and we would love to hear from you. So thank you. So Roz, sorry about that. Over to you.
So this is a reflective poem for what I consider to be quite a reflective piece of artwork. really did speak to me. So therefore, this is how the poem ended up. A journey into light calls the soul to lead, just as the call of the wild will hone our urge and need. To seek awareness of learning, to become wise, to become aware, look to nature's high vibration for the connections we all share. So there, upon the horizon, is the goal we surely seek, the impossible path traversed to the magnificent peak. And our fears recoil in wonder and majesty and awe. Feel the insurmountable task, the sheer hard work hearing the call. The way leads past vast rivers and unexplained terrain, some briefly seen in passing, but in our hearts remain. The growth of nature's beauty begins to cleave our path. The experience of the journey is the lasting aftermath. Oh, the delicacy of choosing, the steps we decide to make as the distant mountains call us, as the tired heart, hungry hearts ache. This picture I will rise to, this majesty divine, holding mystery like a cloudburst upon the mountainside. Like a child, I reach for answers from the sentinels that pose, and I stretch my will towards them, and I hold this picture close.
That is just beautiful and so evocative, Roz. It's just so, how you can see so much of that from my painting, I find very humbling and absolutely gorgeous. It takes us on a route, a whole route.
It feels like there's a journey there, doesn't it? It just feels like as if this just draws you into that journey. And it was so peaceful and it was so evocative of those feelings inside that's why the poem came about. I've tried to stick for a time before I realized what I wanted. I tried to stick with the colors because they're beautiful. You know, you could actually make a poem that is straightforward nature poem about this picture because it is gorgeous, but for me it held something more.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I love that. And would oh, excuse me, would it be okay if you could send me the poem so that I could post it for people to be able to read it as well?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
I know people can listen back as well, but I love to listen to the poem and I love to read it as well. It's a different experience, I think. So
Yeah,
if that's all right, that would be wonderful because that's just amazing.
it's always amazed me that I've been to poetry readings before for various reasons where other people read your poetry. You know, that has happened by accident because I went to a poetry reading once with a really sore throat. Somebody came to my aid. And it's also happened deliberately because there are places where you can go and you actually swap poems to read so that you get a different perspective. And it never ceases to amaze me how differently people interpret the words that are written on the page. It's amazing that you can get the same poem and it sounds completely different when somebody else reads it.
Yes, it's just emphasis on different words can change it so much. You know, you're not changing the words, but just the way, the tone of voice, the emphasis, even the timing, the meter of it, just can change things so much, can't it?
It really can. I guess in a way it's a little bit like a song. You know, you can hear somebody sing a song, can't you? And depending on who the singer is, suddenly it's a completely different song.
Absolutely. And I think it also highlights the fact that, you know, as I say, reading a poem is different from hearing it as well. But when I hear you read that poem, I get the meaning that you've imbued into those words.
Yeah.
If I read it, I may have just read something slightly different. And that's such an issue, I think, these days with so many people communicating by text and email that you write something and how the other person reads it, you have to be so careful what you write so that hopefully it can be totally unambiguous when the other person reads it. Because otherwise, you know, some people write very short texts and emails and you just think, oh, have I upset them? That's a bit brusque, you know, but it's just their way. They don't write flowery long text messages. And it can lead to misunderstandings of you know, in relationships, because you're reading it a different way from the way that they would have said it to you if
You know,
they'd
Fiona, I don't know how relevant this is, but I'm fascinated by words, fascinated how they're written, fascinated how they're said. I love to go to poetry readings because, as you say, that evokes a completely different thing than reading a poem. But I read a study the other day, which I think is fascinating. And the study was talking about texting as opposed to calling on the telephone. And they did some studies in a university with young people texting and calling their parents. And the people that called the parents, that spoke to the parents, they were wired up and they spiked in hormones such as oxytocin and all of the hormones that cause peace and feeling of feel good factor spiked. And the ones that text the parents, same type of conversations, all had the complete opposite. They didn't. There was no hormones that gave them peace. There was hormones that gave them anxiety. There's something about the texting that took away that feel good factor, which I think is really interesting. If the spoken word does that, even just with an ordinary conversation, then no wonder art and poetry and music and painting and everything, all of these types of things, obviously give us something that just writing something out doesn't do, like a letter or whatever. I mean, even a letter, even if someone's handwriting is different to a text, you get nothing from it.
No, it's soulless almost, isn't it? You know, compared with, as you say, a written letter, you've got that person has actually sat down and taken the time to write longhand a letter to you. That has meaning in itself.
It does,
but a text is quickly, you know, the thumb's going, and
I was very fascinated because if it can do that to your physiology, I'm not quite sure we know what we're doing to ourselves in our busy lives when we just text somebody.
No, and it's certainly not the same. You don't get that when you've actually called somebody and had a chat with them. And I think as well, when you're having a chat with somebody, you'll be talking about a certain subject, but then, oh, and by the way, this, you know, and other little things come in, and there's an interchange. It's not just one way, the other way, and it's so much more of a rounded experience and much fuller.
If you consider that when you are texting, you can't hear someone laugh, you can write ha ha, but that's not the same as hearing the musical sound of laughter.
Absolutely.
You know, it's bound to make a difference to the way.
And also, you don't know if they're saying ha ha or ha ha. You know, it's the tone, the way it's said, the emphasis can be quite different. You know, because I often put you know, a smiley face on a text or something, and you think, is someone going to think that I'm laughing at them, or I'm laughing with them, or I'm laughing at myself? It's not specific, but when you can hear the person, it's so much different, isn't it? You get so much more from it, so much more understanding.
It's that richness, that depth, that richness that makes us, you know, I mean, I'm wondering, you know, your painting caused that response in me. It was an emotional response that created something else. And I'm wondering whether, you know, you see doodles or cartoons, and they're nice. They you know, they can be funny. They can be nice to look at. But I wonder, they don't cause an emotional response, do they? It's you know, with just sort of a few lines on a page, they can be clever, but not all of them. I mean, I'm not talking about detailed pencil drawings. I'm talking about,
Yeah.
a step or something that's quick, rather like a text, as
Yes.
opposed to something that like
Yeah.
this, which caused that emotional response as soon as you contemplate what you're looking at, really.
And of course, each person looking at it is going to have a different response to it, based on their own experiences and background and likes and dislikes. So, it's going to hopefully it will create an emotional response in everyone who looks at it, but it will be different from person to person, obviously. And, my feelings as I painted it, of this wonderful, peaceful, quiet, fresh air place, with a gentle breeze just slightly stirring things, just a slight ripple on the water, but the peace accentuated occasionally by a bird calling, which just makes it seem even quieter, because it's that clear note of a bird in the silence that accentuates the whole silence of the place. That was my feelings as I was painting it. I'm imagine myself back there, and the smells, the sights, the sounds. But someone who hasn't been there, I find that absolutely fascinating, your response to it when you hadn't been to that place. So,
Yeah.
magic.
Well,
Magic.
I think one of the interesting things about that is the fact that you can recall it and I can imagine it.
Yes.
And if when the boot is on the other foot, I'm sure it could be the other way around. But both of those things create an emotional response that's positive.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
what I was feeling about the pencil. Like a cartoon drawing, you can see it, the cleverness of it, but it may not. It's difficult to imagine it would make that emotional response that you could imagine and feel again, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. And with your background as well, I find that, I can sort of feel your background coming into your work as well. So just, yeah, amazing. So thank you very much indeed for that. So
I enjoyed writing that very much. And eventually, when I get the computer up and working again, I may even be able to bring that other poem in that I wrote about the other painting that we did on the show, and I didn't have time to finish it because that's sort of sauntering in the background as well, because there's actually two of them now. There's the one that I finished that we did sort of on the show, but I wasn't happy with it. I misinterpreted the painting, I think, having looked at it sort of on the screen, like it was a painting on a screen. Whereas when you send me the pictures, I can make them bigger and I can look and intensely look at them. So I wrote another one. So there's actually two for that painting.
Whoa. It would be really interesting to see the difference between the two as well.
Yeah.
And just the whole, looking at it through one set of eyes, as it were. And I know they were both your sets of eyes, but at different times and in different ways. That'll be really interesting to hear both of those, if that's okay.
Yeah. Once I get the computer swapped over, it's all of the work is backed up. So all I've got to do is get a new computer and put it all on there, and then I'll have it. But oh gosh, computers are the bane of my life at the moment.
I just dread anything going wrong with this one. It's getting to be a bit of a veteran at the moment. Wary of saying too much out loud in its presence, suspicion and all that. But no, it's been a very good computer, but I am aware that they don't last forever, and it's just like, oh no. It's the pain that you have to go through.
Do you still find, because you've been doing these shows now for quite some time, and it occurred to me the other day, I was wondering if you still find the poem stimulating, because the poetry is a secondary for you, isn't it, really? Because your main thing is your painting. So do you still find it stimulating?
Oh, absolutely. I haven't been writing any myself for a little while. I've just been snowed under. In fact, that's why had a break from the shows as well, because I had so much else going on that I hardly did a single post to Facebook or anything, let alone the shows. But I think that's done me good, and I've come back reinvigorated to the shows now as well, which is really good news. But I've always enjoyed the poetry from my guest poets such as yourself, and hearing how my painting has triggered that reaction, that response, and just the whole creative outpouring of words in response to my painting. I find it absolutely fascinating and enthralling, and I love hearing it. So yes, it's not my main artistic outlet, but I do still love it. It's really good, and I would have been very sad if I hadn't have started having the shows again, on a monthly basis now at the end of each month. I think I would have missed that, because not only do I really like all of my poets, sound like I own them, but I do not own the poets, but the poets on my shows, all been absolutely fantastic. And I would miss that, and having the discussions with them and hearing their poetry. It's lovely. So yeah. I may even write some more poetry one day, but I'm not promising at the moment.
I really enjoyed your poetry. I thought it was great. In the beginning, you used to write one, and then we used to write one, and then we used to say both of them. And I always liked that. I thought that was really a really lovely way of doing it.
Maybe I could find time somewhere, don't know where, to start writing again.
Yeah,
could be fun. Because of course there could always be another book in the offing.
That would be good. That other one is very popular. I mean, I haven't got a copy left.
Oh wow! Well, there are always more.
Yeah.
So let me know if you'd like any more.
I will text you about that, because I would like one for myself.
Well, it's so far it's raised, I think it's about £1,200 for Alzheimer's Research UK, which is no mean feat, and I'm just so pleased about that, because I think most people know my mother has Alzheimer's quite advanced, and I've seen what it can do, not just to my mother and our family, but also a friend of mine, her parents both had Alzheimer's and died of it, and so many people that I know have been affected by it one way or another, and they need money to investigate ways of, maybe they can't stop it entirely, but mitigating it, or minimizing the effects of it, or maybe one day even a way to prevent it happening or to stop it in its tracks. But obviously without funding they can't do that work. So I'm very pleased to be able to help with that in any way I can. So any books that sell, everybody, they are all still going to be contributing towards Alzheimer's Research UK.
They're brilliant coffee table books. Leaving them out on the coffee table, because people flick through them. The paintings are beautiful. The poems are really good, very diverse. I think it's a really good book. I couldn't understand why businesses wouldn't have picked that up and left it on the coffee table in their reception, because it's one of those sort of books that you can flick through and you don't have to read the whole thing. Just some of them while you've got time. It's really good.
I still get quite a few people, when we're talking or something, they say, "Oh, and I still love your book. I just pick it up every now and then," and so if it's giving people pleasure as well, it's another bonus. But
there's some great poems in there, really good poems, and also I think there's the styles. It's really interesting to see how you'd never believe how many styles. I mean, obviously you do if you think about it, but when you, like for me, I write in a particular way. I guess I've got in the habit of doing that. I've been writing since I was 7 years old, so I'm very established in the way that I like to write and the way my process.
Yes.
I don't think it's stale. I don't think it's
Oh gosh,
it's
no.
stale. It's something that I'm very comfortable with, and I know my own abilities.
And it's
But
beautiful.
it's
Mm.
fascinating to look at everybody's style. There, it's so diverse in that book.
Yes.
Fabulous, fabulous.
And of course, since that the cut-off point for the book, there's been a lot more poetry written about my paintings by a lot of poets.
Yeah.
And again, with some new poets that weren't in the other book as well. And so even more different styles as well. So,
It was
yes,
a lot of work, wasn't it, though, to get it together?
it was a lot of work. It was very intense. I think next time I would definitely give it a longer lead period to get to production, um, to publishing it. But what I was thinking is, because I'm not sure that I can sit down and write second poems for all the ones that have been done by other people, but I could, of course, have a different poet write another poem about the one that's already been done. So there'd
Yes.
still be two poems per painting, but
Yeah.
just not one by me and one by someone else for every painting. So I think that will be the way to go for this one, I think. So it'll still be my paintings, but poetry by lots of other people. So
Very exciting. Very exciting.
yeah, so I put it off last year because I had so much else going on. Thinking, well, that can happen this year, and then this year is like, oh, actually, I've already got so many things booked in for this year with exhibitions. Not that I'm complaining; it's all good. I'm really pleased that the way things are going. Um, but I don't think, you always think, well, next year I'll have more time. I don't think that's
Yes.
ever going to happen.
No.
I think
I
it's
think that
always
was
just going to get
fine.
busier. Yeah.
I think you've got to strike while the iron is hot, and I think the iron is always hot. You've just got to keep going, because
Yes,
otherwise you miss whole bits. I mean,
absolutely.
I used to wait in my younger days when I used to write. I used to wait for the urge.
Oh,
I found that if you wait for the urge, you can get dry periods where you don't write anything, and
absolutely.
I don't get any dry periods now. If I may not be writing, but I'm always thinking, always.
Mm.
I see things and I make notes. I've got a diary full of little phrases and notes that just come to me, and I just put them
Yeah.
aside and wait for the moment I've got the time to write the poem.
Well, I also find deadlines are really helpful in stopping any dry periods, because you've just got to get on and do it. And by getting on and doing something, even if you don't like what you do at the start, you get into it and you build on that. And you may say, okay, I've started this. I don't like that bit. Put it to one side. Now I'm going to start again. But it's got you into it again. It started the flow. And it is a matter of just get on and do it. Don't think,
Yeah.
oh, I'll feel better tomorrow. I might do it then, or, I'll be in a better mood to do it. No, just start it now. And if you're an artist, just get some paint and slap it on some paper, or just draw some doodles and make something of it. But just do something. Or, as you say, with your writing, just start something.
Yeah.
And even if you think, not happy with that, change it, start again. But it does get you back into it, doesn't it? So,
I've had times when I've written a poem that I've disliked and haven't thought I thought that's rubbish type of thing, put it to the side, and then about 3 months later, writing another poem and a line from it. It may not be the whole thing, but a line or a couple of words just suddenly come to me, and I search it out and use some of that for it. It's all grist for the mill.
yes, absolutely. Well, Roz, I've just noticed what the time is. We're
Oh,
getting right up to the end of our time. It's gone really quickly. And I just like to say thank you so much again for being back on the show with such a beautiful, evocative poem. I can
pleasure.
still feel your poem, actually. It does give me a real feeling about traveling and peace and life's journey. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you'll be back on the show again sometime soon.
Oh yes, I hope so. It's been
No,
lovely. Thank you very much.
thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been great to have you along. Take care, everybody. Till next month. Bye. Bye, Roz. Bye.
Bye.